Hi, Essi.
Hello, Steve. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. It's so good to see you. In fact, as I've just hit record on this Zoom chat, the sun in my garden has just come out and the room is filling with light.
I am so happy about that.
In the midwinter, we're having sunshine, which is great. Yeah. How is the weather there?
Well, I have to say that we are also having kind of through the cloud sunshine, and I had a pretty Arctic walk this morning. It's minus 10, I guess, then with the wind chill like minus 20 and north wind, so it's rough. But I walk by the sea, and now it had got the ice cover, and it was amazing.
Wow. Tell us exactly, for those people who don't know exactly where you live, don't worry, we don't need your address, but where exactly is home for you in Finland?
Home is now in Helsinki downtown.
Yeah.
And so
great city.
It's wonderful, and I'm really super grateful that I actually get to be here, and that I have 10 minutes walk to the sea.
Yeah. Well, we're here because of Rajaton, and Rajaton has been with us as a driving force and a very unique voice of its own for, well, it's going on for a quarter of a century. Is it 24 years this year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's shocking. Exactly.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about Essi and what made you get into singing, because before Rajaton started, you had done quite a few things, and I'm quite interested to talk about some of those. You had become an artistic force of your own, on your own. So tell us a little bit your early education and how you got into music.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I think the singing started like when I was a baby, that I just started singing. But then my parents were not very keen on having me like really practicing. So it was my own drive that made me kind of do it. And my dad was actually wishing the whole time that I would have some proper job or training. And it was interesting because he said to me that a work as like a celebrity, but that was not the point. Somebody who everybody knows is not good for anybody's soul. That as human beings we can't handle that, and that was his point. That he doesn't want me to do music because it will then put me to the field where he thinks that no one should really be.
Yes.
So it's really
unhealthy
interesting
as a human being. That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. And then so he was kind of slightly against, but then of course he could see clearly what I was up to. And then when I went to Sibelius High School, Helsinki, then I really felt like I spread my wings and I found my friends. I found Rajaton members who then later on we formed the group with Jussi Chydenius and
the amazing bass.
And then my choir sister Virpi Moskari. They were there in the high school choir, and that was actually the first really good choir that I was in. We had a choir in our kind of music-oriented school that I was already before I went to high school, but the choir wasn't really. It was not in the sense of practicing. It was just for a project, and then we were not together. So, and I really loved the Sibelius Lukio high school choir, because it was all the singers were so musical, and the conductor was so Marjukka Riihimäki was the conductor there. So then that she had such trust in young people, and that she assumes that everybody is in good tune and everybody is musical, and everybody is like ta-da, loving this, and it like all these things that there is so much good responsibility. And I was like, okay, I didn't have that kind of experience before, but she was just totally like, okay, now you can do it. And I was like, okay.
So the Sibelius High School is a specialist music school.
Yeah, at that time it was only especially music, but now there is also dance.
Yeah.
So it's like a fame school.
And they come from everywhere around Finland, not just Helsinki.
Yeah, everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think nowadays I would not get in there because now there is lots of kids going. So then you would have to have really high marks. And mine were okay, but not that high.
Yeah. Right.
So, yeah.
Interesting. So instrumentalists, they always say that you get some very good musicians, instrumentalists, and you can have a very good choir. But that actually good choirs are not made of necessarily good singers. But it's these, and it's what's in here.
Yeah, and then the leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have some music schools in England. Just off the top of my head, we have a school called Chetham's, and up in Manchester, which is a specialist music school. And we have Wells Cathedral School, which is a specialist music school, not a choir school, but a music school. And I remember when I was a teenager, quite influential and sang in our national youth choir. I remember at the time that the chamber choir from Chetham's High School, which is this, a school with a few hundred people in it, was absolutely phenomenal. The same guy who conducted the National Youth Choir also was the music guy at Cheetham School. And it was just amazing that people who weren't singers so much could make such an amazing choir sound. And which takes us on to how, what did you do with that after that? You then go on to conservatoire.
Yeah, I actually did that. I was studying classical singing after high school. And then we also started Greg's Musicus Choir with Marjukka Riihimäki, because I was really like feeling lost. I didn't have any other thing to do but music, and I wasn't studying in a schooling that would give me a profession yet. It was just like a heavy-duty hobby. But then I applied to a pop jazz conservatory, and I got in to a program that would give me a paper that I'm a musician.
Yeah. So is this in the early 90s? Just getting a time frame,
Yeah, and then that was great. I started my studies, but then I got my first solo record deal.
Big
and that
deal.
was that was a big deal. 94.
Yeah.
And to my great surprise, I made a really big hit.
Wow.
And it was like to the point where people were like, I go crazy if this song goes one more time in the radio. Like, it went crazy.
Wow.
So then I had quickly had a band, and I was touring with them, and I worked like that for 3 years, like in a row. And I had a break from the school, and I was just working as a singer.
And very exciting, but also exhausting, I say.
Yeah, and then also was showing me the thing that the role of a soloist, there are lots of things that doesn't actually happen when I'm a member of a group.
Yeah.
That the kind of focus and the responsibility and the demand that is directed to a soloist is very different. And
everything your dad warned you about.
Exactly. Exactly. But then I actually had the thing that I was protecting myself, probably, because I was people who were talking about me, they were addressing me like, so you're just like a harmless neighbor girl. That I had of course, I was very innocent. I had no experience, and I was very like straight from sauna, kind of no makeup, no like nothing to like very natural in a way. But then I was doing the so that I didn't go with the. I didn't tell any reporter that actually I swear a lot, and these are my edges. I didn't talk any of that. I was just being harmless, and it worked really well because then I wasn't very interesting. So then I kind of got through that without being ripped, like being too interesting.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I could have been even, but I was acting like that.
Tell me how you talk about classical training.
Yeah.
A conservatoire, and how at conservatoire you did classical training and then you moved on to pop. Tell me about, a lot of people interesting, a lot of people singing choirs out there who do pop repertoire and classical. Tell us about moving from one genre to the other. For you, how does that work?
Yeah.
Vocally.
Yeah, I think for me it was the going to pop training was going home.
Yeah.
But the classical training, all the ideas of using voice that way, actually, I think nowadays my technique that I'm using mostly is a combination. That I'm using the classical ideas, but then I'm keeping the ring, for instance, way lower, and there are like different muscle work basically what's used. But then also the maybe it was about the teacher, but for me, of course, vocally the whole thing is so different because of the repertoire.
Yeah.
But then I felt like in the pop and jazz field and rhythmic music and natural singing I felt like I am now singing. But in the classical, I was just practicing. That I couldn't really do singing as me in that field.
Sure.
I couldn't.
Sure.
Yeah. So
and I think it's fair to say a lot of our colleagues in the world of, well, certainly in the world of classical singing, classical a cappella, their voices have been refined and technique has been slapped onto it to make them a better version of who they are. And I think that's what happens with classical voices. They become, but I've always, when I've heard you sing, it's as if you've been born to sing. So, and you don't always get that with singers. They sound a little bit like a finished product. They might have some talent, but they've been kind of molded into what we hear as a classical sound. And actually, I go on to say this is one of the most appealing things I find with Rajaton sound is it is such an earthy, immediate, vibrant. It's you can almost touch this sound. It's fantastic.
Wow.
More of that later. My roots were very much in classical, in church music, cathedral singing, and the group I joined, the King Singers, was very much into making sounds together based on a classical technique, and we tried to branch out and make, do lighter repertoire and try to find a little bit of that raw twang, that edge, to a certain extent, with a little success sometimes, but it always felt like we were wearing fancy dress.
But I have to say that my experience of you guys, you were in Helsinki after your concert, and I think we had some kind of a workshop. I was in a different group. It was not Rajaton yet, and we came and we were huge fans.
Was Jussi in the group then? Was you see in that group also?
Yeah, no, he wasn't.
No.
No, and we came to the same restaurant with you guys, and we were worshiping, the ground you were walking, and it was wonderful. And then you were so kind. You probably, I don't know, but you actually sang for us in the restaurant, and I think it was a Beatles tune, and I was so happy. I was so happy about that. You were so generous, and it was fun. And you were in the thing that you really actually like this. It felt like that. Even if you did not, that was a huge offering for us. So forever grateful.
Well, thank you for that. It's lovely to spark that memory. I remember joining that group and feeling that the light music was the thing that was the most difficult thing. Was this whole idea of being much more natural with language and vowels and placing the voice in a different place, and really, really demanding. But you do it and it becomes second nature. So, tell us a little bit about the character Super Essi. You can't. I thought I'd leave a meaningful pause before asking, because this is the most phenomenal thing. I don't think any a cappella group can claim to have a member who has done this.
Super Essi.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, now I can say the thing that I was young, I needed money. I was working as a children's program host.
TV
In 1992 to 94. While I was
so on your way to stardom.
And I was really actually grateful for that job, because then I could work with cameras and get used to that. So then when I was a soloist and the cameras came, I was just like, bam, bam, it's fine. So it was great. But I had been working in a children's summer camp for a few years. That was my summer job, and I loved it. And then I was needing another job, and I heard about the audition, and I went there, and it happened that the director just appreciated so much because I sang for them in the audition. It was not required. Because I had been playing with the kids, I had been kind of leading the plays and done that thing, and I had been singing with them and for them, but with them. So then I sang there, and the job was mine.
So it was a step to it's kind of a natural, this kind of to your kind of the kind of pop career starting in 1994. Interesting. That is great. I mean, I don't know if later people become TV hosts or radio hosts, but on the way to just be a TV star, and I love that. Tell us a little bit about how you got together, how you started Rajaton. What was that kind of thing that made you go, all right, we need to be a group, we need to do a cappella? Tell us about.
Yeah, it was the year 97, and so it had been 7 years after high school finished, and so I felt like I had already lived quite a bit. 7 years, and I was at school. I was kind of finishing the school, and I was admiring the King Singers and the Real Group.
They were big at that time.
They were huge.
Yeah.
And I think it was 96 when I went to their concert in Espoo here near Helsinki, and it blew my mind. And I thought, that kind of thought went through me, and it's not an like narcissistic thought, but it was a kind of vision that I think I could do that, like my own way, but there is something that was that they were phenomenal, but I don't mean that I could do what they do, but that I could be in that functioning well. And about the solo career and the role,
pop career.
yeah. Also musically, it's a lonely place. When everybody else is playing some other instrument and there are some backing vocals, but it's a different thing. And I loved singing with people. So then probably that's when my mind started going like, yeah, that's a good idea. And then in the end, I think it was after summer, 97, when Jussi said to me, there was a wedding, and we were singing as a kind of collective group of people. He said to me that he would like to form a new group that would practice more than once a week in a way that made sense to me. I thought that we would try to work as musicians, as like whatever band that practices enough that the music gets delivered like it does, and it's not that we just quickly learn something and then go boo and hope it works. That we kind of have a different approach to what we're wanting to do and why. And I said, yes, that's a great idea. And then I went home and called, we didn't have cell phones. I went home and called to Virpi and Ahti and said that, okay, I talked with Jussi and we were talking.
Your high school.
Yes.
Yeah. Friends from the choir. Yeah.
Yeah. And I said that we were talking that we would form a group and I would like to speak with you. And they were like, okay, great, we'll come. And they came over to my place, and then I called Jussi. Okay, so now I have Virpi and Ahti here, and we're kind of thinking that who would be the alto and tenor? And Jussi was like, okay, so you called them already? I said, yeah. What's the question? So
that's good.
He probably had in mind a little more, I don't know, some other kind of approach, but I went straight to boom, because I knew that I want to sing with them. So,
and did you have at that time, an idea of what you would sing, what kind of sound, whether it would be on mics, whether it would be an unplugged group? What was the idea? Or did you just come together and just find your way? Was there a vision?
The vision was original music, and
original music meaning not covers? Or...
Not covers.
Okay.
Yeah, and that we want to sound the way we do, that we don't want to copy anybody else. We just sing the way we do and give everything to the music so that it can be as little static in the channel as possible, as fluent as possible. And that was, I think, the goal. And then we started as an acoustic group, and we still only practice acoustically.
Yeah. Ah, right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So when did microphones come in, and what was the reason? And
yeah, the venues started to be bigger, and there were lots of people, and I started to feel really small and that they can't hear.
Yeah.
I was singing at that time with quite force, so I was exhausted afterwards.
Yeah.
So then we needed amplification, and our sound engineer Ilkka Herkman is my childhood friend.
Yeah.
He's very funny because he's an exquisite sound engineer.
Yeah.
And we had somebody else before him, but that didn't really go well. So then I said to him that he needs to help us. And he was like, he had been working with really like hard rock bands and everywhere. And he actually had is it tinnitus?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
and he
tinnitus.
said that, and he said that he is not coming to live gigs anymore because it's too loud. He can't handle it.
Right.
And I was, almost on my knees begging him, like, listen, you get to choose the volume because there are no drums. That you can do the whole thing. And she was like, I don't want to come. And I'm like, but you have to.
Yeah.
But then he came, and the first gig was a bit like, okay, lots of stuff happening here and whatever, but he was great.
Yeah.
And then the second gig, and later he told me that he was really impressed because there were only 2 songs that were the same, but the rest of the set was new.
Yeah.
That we had been working so hard to build the repertoire.
Yeah.
And then he thought that these guys are actually serious. They're actually doing this. And we had like more choir kind of songs in the beginning.
Yeah.
Most of our songs were composed to Finnish poetry and folklore texts.
Yeah.
So it was quite, deep diving. No small topics.
I'm very interested in that. What makes Rajaton? There are a lot of groups out there, and I'm interested in what you said about you wanted to have your own identity from the beginning. Most a cappella groups, when they start off, subconsciously become a little bit clones of other groups. Without thinking about it, because they're so inspired, and it's probably the greatest kind of flattery to establish groups that other groups come and there happen to be maybe 6 of them are all guys and it's the same voicing as the King Singers and they sing the same pieces.
Exactly.
And then they might find a different way or a different way of doing things. But it was interesting that you find your own voice. Yes, you're influenced by. You can't help but be influenced by a group in Scandinavia, as big as the real group at the time. But being Finnish and having this amazing history, folkloric history. You were telling about, and I don't think people may appreciate that. It's kind of different to the English folk songs, which are kind of, little country songs that we have and we sing them. But this is a more profound journey, isn't it? It's a kind of in every Finn's heart, this, well, I'm generalizing, this deep sense of national identity through its folk writing, poetry, and the great collection. Is it the Kanteletar?
Kanteletar is the collection, and then Kalevala is the big story book. And then Kanteletar is more like in the sung rhythm. Yeah. I think that's a very, very good question because, of course, after we've done this for 24 years, it's quite difficult to estimate how strange we are from other Finns' perspective. But I think that it is true that there is a strong, first of all, there is a strong choir culture in Finland, and there are lots of Finnish choir songs. And then there are lots of songs that are in Kalevala, in the metric of Kalevala, which is often 5/4. So it goes like dee 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 dee. This is the Kalevala. So it all goes in 5. So everybody,
I know that tune.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Eric. Well, I think you say Bergman, but we say Eric Bergman.
Yeah.
Wrote a piece for us, and the opening movement started with solo baritone because I remember singing it, singing that tune. And we'll talk about that later, actually, because I've got some great memories from Finland. But I remember that, and of course Sibelius. A lot of people, choir people who might be watching this, may have sung some Sibelius choral music, and he sets settings of the Kanteletar.
Yeah.
The Rakastava.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful.
Is probably one of the most famous performed pieces of choral music.
Yeah, I have to tell you, that's the first thing I have sung with Ahti, our baritone, that we sung the solo in Rakastava series in a concert. I didn't know him yet, And then Marjukka asked me to come and sing with him, and oh my, I was like, who are you?
Yeah.
And yeah, he was singing with me that solo.
There is a very strong. I mean, most cultures there is a very strong male voice choir culture, isn't there? And I remember going to a dinner for Eric Bergman's 70th birthday, and I think it was in a big. I've got a feeling it was a big kind of ballroom attached to Finlandia Hall or next door or something. And there was a big dinner where there were kind of sort of tables for 10, and the place had hundreds of people in, but they were all kind of a lot of male voice choir people who at the end had these little blue books, and they stood on chairs and sang. There was a guy who went, and they all went, and they sang this short little song. They'd all sit down, have a few shots of vodka, and then somebody else would stand up, and they would all. I remember this dinner very well because being European, and always looked as the Finns, the Swedes, the Norwegians, as European. You know, that we were touring in Europe. I always remembered that there were certain times when I felt that the culture was something so different from what I was used to. And that was one occasion where at the end of this dinner, many serenades, they presented Eric Bergman with his birthday card, Happy 70th, and they presented him with something he'd always wanted, which was a remote control electric car, which I thought was one of the most bizarre things. What was even more bizarre is this: they sang a song and they gave him this prize, but it was already had its battery charged up, and they gave him the controls, and they had a spotlight from somewhere above moving, and he drove the car around the ballroom in this spotlight.
He turned 70, not 7.
No, exactly 70. And I just remember this feeling that very, very odd kind of behavior, but it was kind of something familiar because of this male voice choir thing and this pride and nationalism. But then there was this kind of slightly off the wall thing that was going on, and then we had to sing a song for him as the King Singers, having had a very kind of long-winded dinner and many toasts. And I was telling my wife about it this morning that we had to. We went to the place where we then had to sing a song to this huge ballroom, just one piece. And they put these little chairs out for us. And we had to stand on the chairs. Just like the male voice choir chaps.
That's how you do.
Standing. So we had to stand, and I think we were singing something like Honey Pie, or I think we sang two pieces, as kind of a nice ballad, and then something a bit glitzy. And of course, all the thing you do where you're moving around and doing all this. I was on this wobbly chair that I could feel wobbling around. I remember that. But yeah, we used to take the Sibelius, the Rakastava, and the Eric Bergman around the world as part of concert programs and trying to show people this idea of a deep sense of national identity through the folk culture, and how it influences the music, and often we put those pieces together. We've been featuring some of your recordings, and I just wanted I know it features a new singer, and we'll get on to that in a minute, but just tell us about the lineup. Just introduce the current members of the group, and just tell us a little bit about all the changes you've had over the years.
That's very nice. So Jussi has been mentioned already many times. So our bass, Jussi Chydenius, and he comes from a musical family. His father is a composer, and he actually started composing for Rajaton in the beginning. That was our start. And then there was also Mia Makarov writing songs for us, but she's not singing with us. But she was a very, very important person for us in the beginning, and her works, Butterfly, Mitä kaikatat Kivonen, and she's brilliant in the
Yeah.
way she's still working a lot, and so we are forever grateful for.
And gave you a fantastic voice.
Yeah,
Beautiful clarity in her work, and
yeah, she's wonderful. Yeah.
yeah.
So then Ahti Paunu is the heavenly baritone, our velvet Paunu, and he was actually working in radio.
Classic FM.
Classic FM while
Yeah.
I was in TV, so it was kind of
Yeah.
funny coincidence before and while Rajaton was practicing, like our early years. And now radio has saved him again. Of course, Corona time, radio still work, so he has a job now, at least some part job. So it's wonderful for him. But he's a classical music lover, and he also comes from musical family. His mother was a music teacher and choir conductor. And then Hannu Lepola, our Karelian support. 1997, when Rajaton was founded, we actually had another tenor, Antti Lehtimaja, but he was studying to be a lawyer, and he couldn't practice as much as we wanted. And so it was all loving, but he had to quit. So then Hannu came along. It was the second year, I guess, that we were together. So he has been there always. And
the face, yeah.
Yeah, he comes from Karelia, and he was all in rock music. He had been in music schools and singing in choirs, but he wanted to be a rock star.
Yeah.
But then luckily
he looks a bit like a rock star.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of comes through. Yeah, he plays lots of different instruments, and is also soaked in music. It was something in the water in Karelia area, maybe. And then Soila, our alto, she has been. She was born to a musical family, so that both her parents are musicians, and also her mother's parents are very famous here in Finland. So they are the famous music family, and all her siblings are super gifted as well as she is. So we are not surprised about anything that she does. She's just amazing. And then it's the change. Virpi Moskari was the original.
The one change.
The one change.
In 2017.
Yes. And this is Virpi left the group, and then Aili Ikonen came to make our day. And she's actually Soila's second cousin. So, and her both parents are in music, and all her siblings are in music, and she has had folk and then quite a bit of jazz career here in Finland now. But since jazz is such a still not the mainstream thing, she could come to the group, and I am forever grateful for this change. The grief of Virpi leaving, and then getting Aili to replace her is like complete wonder to me.
It's difficult to make changes, isn't it?
Yes, it's really hard.
And I would the group I sang with, the King Singers, made a change after 10 years, the first 10 years. And the group at that point nearly folded. It changed its tenor, its middle, its high, its high tenor, not countertenor.
Yeah.
And the group almost stopped at that point. It had a 10th anniversary concert. It did an amazing concert in the Festival Hall in London. And then this change came. The guy wanted to go and pursue a solo career. He wanted to go and sing Bach and not be touring endlessly. And I think the group nearly stopped. And somebody said, "Let's give it a go. Let's see." And because of that first change, it gave the group kind of confidence, really, that there would be somebody there if they looked for the person. And I just wondered, did you look for the person, or did you advertise? How did that? Was it word of mouth? Yeah.
Yeah, and we actually called her. We didn't dare to ask her because she has a career here.
Yeah.
We didn't ask her directly. It was more like with laughs, and if you would feel like coming, we would really welcome you. But if you have anybody in mind,
Yeah.
that we asked her help because she's younger, so she knows different people than we do, and then to our great surprise, she said that she would be interested in doing that, and we did audition a few other singers too because she wasn't sure, like in the beginning, like she didn't really know if she's going to do it, but then she luckily did, and she's such an amazing musician and a wonderful person.
It's interesting to kind of note at this point that people look at groups like Rajaton, Real Group, Amarcord, these groups that are firmly in the a cappella scene and have an internet presence, and we can look at fantastic concert footage and recordings and videos. People can't always understand why one would not want to do that job anymore, why would want to change, and people do leave groups for all sorts of reasons. And I was saying, I'd just been speaking to Voces 8 a week or so ago, and that actually over their short time have had a huge change. In as many years, they've had as many singers, and presumably in those changes, they look at the changes as being a positive force. But I also know that from having made lots of changes in my time in the King Singers, lots of people to my right were joining the group, that there's a lot of work to get a new person into a group. And if you're doing it each year, it kind of is pretty exhausting. But new people cause also excitement.
Yeah.
We can lament somebody leaving and we can feel sad about it, but we can get quite excited about what a new person can bring. So it's one of those, a cloud with a silver lining, isn't it? Change.
Yeah, and I think it's true that we were 20 years together before this change.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It was like breaking a marriage.
Yeah,
like a huge process, but because it was not breaking a marriage with the traditional reasons, that it's like she just needed to do other things, and we could go through it. We could live with her 2 years before she left. So then it was kind of possible to then do that. And we actually had a break. We had 9 months sabbatical before Aili started singing with us. But when she came, she had practiced so well that the frustrating bit of replacing someone, that we have to practice and practice and practice, didn't really happen. Because she had been doing her homework so well that we just started singing, and then we were like, okay, do you have some questions? We don't. And so it was a very surprisingly natural change.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about this song, Aino Neiti. I don't know if I've even pronounced it. I probably doubled
Perfectly.
the T there. Oh,
no,
did
no.
I? Gosh.
Yes.
Aino Neiti. Tell us a little bit about that. Miss Aino.
Yes.
Kempä joella joukolla nyt soutaa, kempä joella soutaa. Joukolan joen suulla sinisorsa sousi, nurmen kanssa nukahti ja päivän kerran nousi. Kempä joella joukolan nyt soutaa, kempä joella soutaa. Veli nuori veikaten vieri, ulapalla vieri sis. usko asui enimmäkseen emon siiven alla. Kempä, kempä, joella Joukolan nyt soutaa. Kempä, joella soutaa. Veli nuori
Miss Aino, so the thing that the choir is saying, kempä kempä joella Joukolan nyt soutaa. Kempä joella soutaa. So who is rowing on Joukola River? Who is rowing on Joukola River? And then Aili neiti is singing about Aino. That she was just growing there in beautiful Ainola. This Aino neiti, Miss Aino, and she was friends with the nature. Mm-hmm. She was with the trees and with the moss and with the grass by the lake, and she was just happy there and beautiful. She was beautiful and probably blonde, but that's not said in the song. And then her brother made a bet with the big singer and wise man Väinämöinen, who was in love with Aino like everybody else as well, and he wanted the girl. And then Aino's brother made a bet, a singing competition with Väinämöinen. He was not realistic because he failed, but the thing was that he promised he would compete with Väinämöinen in singing, and he promised that if he won't, the thing was that you sing the other person so that they sink into the swamp, that you make them sink into swamp. So if he can't do it, Väinämöinen can have his sister. Fair.
Wow.
But Aino neiti did not agree, and she went to the lake, and then she turned into a mermaid with other mermaids. So she said nope to Väinämöinen. And so this is, and then in the end of the song, who is rowing on the river that goes down from the lake. So then in the end it's the sadness that's rowing, because Aino neiti is not there.
Interesting. Tell us about the music and the arrangement and how that works.
This is Jussi's song, and he wrote it specially to Aili, and he also arranged it, and I like the thing that he is using the rhythm of the text.
Yeah.
So that it's not forced into a beat. Yeah. It's the rhythm of the text.
But it's very complex, but it sounds very pure. I mean, if you understand music, you know this is not easy stuff to sing. But you make it sound easy, and I think with a lot of your arrangements, they're incredibly complex. But there's also an incredible clarity to what you do. I think that's a skill, isn't it? And you have to, we know there's a lot of work that goes into that to make it sound so easily.
Yeah, and then it's true that we did practice when we started working with this song. We did practice a lot without the lead. We practiced the backing, all the music that's under the lead, so that it's that works as a package, but it has to be glued to the lead.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
then all the emotions that come through the text that she's singing are in the backing. We are kind of are they old Greek plays where the choir is doing the emotions. So we are doing.
Yes. Yeah.
She's telling the story, but we are doing the.
Fantastic! What a talented chap Jussi is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do send my best wishes when you're together.
I will.
Wonderful. I know that with a lot of groups, collaborating is quite an interesting thing. It keeps us alive, doesn't it? And it gives us an insight into other groups or other artists' work. I see that there's been various, as a soloist, and also as a group, some forays into film and recordings for film. Is that right?
Yeah, it was actually our early time that we made one. We were in one movie. We did the theme song, and that was great.
Amazing.
Yeah. And
I'm very jealous.
Yeah, now the guy who was a little boy there in the movie, now he's a big star, kind of rising star in the singing field here in Finland.
Yeah.
And then we've also had the extreme privilege to start working with symphony orchestras. And that cooperation has been such a blessing for us, even though we were so surprised about the first invitation, because there was no reason to ask an a cappella group to sing with the symphony orchestra. But then we were joking that we either have no musicians or a lot of them. We don't do anything in between. Luckily, we have done some otherwise. But we did those cover programs. We started with Lahti Symphony Orchestra, and Osmo Vänskä was conducting there.
Lahti is a very dear place in my musical heart, because it's very strange. Many invitations we had to the organ festival in Lahti, which I always thought was very strange that we went to a thing called the organ festival. But great. Well, it's not new anymore, but they used to have a church where they had their concerts, which was okay, but it was a bit of a swimming pool acoustic. But then they had a brand new concert hall, which was rather special built.
Yeah, and did you go there? Have you been singing?
Went there a few times. And I remember one year when it was nearly finished, we'd done a concert somewhere, but we were in a tent, a big marquee, up while they were still building it, where we had our after concert dinner. And this is one of those strange things about the Finnish culture. They had a band there, a jazz band of 4 people, which was called 40 Fingers and a Lonely Trumpet. And I remember getting fits of giggles when they were introduced, and people looking at me as if I was disrespectful or something. 40 Fingers and a Lonely Trumpet was the name of the group. And but no, that concert was fun. Concert's a fantastic, fantastic venue. I was also talking this morning with my wife again about Northern Europe, Scandinavia especially, this idea of how little sunshine one gets in the winter months and how much sun you get in the summer time. And I was talking a few weeks back with Katarina from Real Group or ex-Real Group, about summer festivals that we both, when we first met a long time ago, when they first started the Real Group, and these festivals that go through the night in the summer months and then the winter months, and how much the winter and lack of sunlight and this kind of hibernation time, how it defines national character, how it defines natural mood, and their appreciation perhaps for nature in a different way. And I say that because I remember driving in a van to the hotel in Lahti, and somebody trying to tell me about Finnish people, and that this idea of sitting perhaps under a kind of a big tree by a lake was this kind of grounding idea of heaven for the Finn. Is that there is a certain place, and this kind of sauna and by the lake and crayfish festivals and all this kind of thing. I think there is an affinity with nature, and there's an affinity with natural beauty that perhaps we get in a different way further south.
Yeah, and somebody else was also saying, I recognize that, and I can agree with that. And then also the kind of thing that it's hard to recognize myself, but people say that it seems like we have a direct or strong connection with the earth, with the nature and with the earth, and it's difficult to know because it is what it is. It's been like that always. But then we were in Japan in those big cities, and people were saying that they are so amazed by the thing that we have those natural forests. And then I started asking about that from my friend, and she's like, yeah, there are not many around Europe, like none. All the forests are planted, but we have the real old wild forests. And it's like, and it's not easy to recognize all these things. It's just the way it is here. But I guess that it's also true that the younger generations might not have that. That it can be that my parents are still in the generation who really that the only option is to go to their cottage or to go sailing or to be in the nature when there is free time. But nowadays, I think it's changing maybe.
Sure.
So, yeah, I don't know how many Finns can recognize it right now, but I totally do. I'm a complete nature girl. That's my thing.
Tell us a little bit, talking about nature, about the video for Ainon Neiti, because it's very beautiful, and tell us where that is and a little bit about that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's actually very close to Helsinki. It's like only half an hour from Helsinki, and we go east. It's in Sipoo, and there is one of those national parks or outdoor areas where you have to stay on the path, and there are certain places where you can turn a fire and have your grilling makkara, which is the sausage thing, the madness that Finns do, and then you can go camping there, but you can't go camping anywhere. Like it has to be like they are protecting the forest, and that was a lucky thing to be shooting the film there, because that spring we had lots of snow, but then probably the next day after the shoot, the snow was gone. That it was getting so warm, and it's also true that the change of the climate has really, we really notice it. That it used to be that the spring is long and it kind of warms up slowly, not like that the snow is poof, one day and it's gone.
Yeah, that's England for you. That's what we get in England. It snows.
That's amazing.
People go sledging in the morning, and by the evening they're having the barbecues. Well, not quite, but you will wake up and it's gone. Yeah. Maybe it's global warming. Who knows? Hey, I said I was jealous before. I am quite jealous because I can't claim to have these accolades, but your recording output has been quite successful, and in terms of gold albums, this idea of albums selling so many that you have gold albums, you've got quite a lot. I think about 8, or is it more now? I don't know.
I'm very bad at statistics.
Okay, well, I read 8, but what I'm really impressed with is you've also got a platinum and a double platinum album. So gold albums and platinum albums, for those people who don't even buy CDs anymore, who just download, those are the sort of things you see rock stars having at the back on walls. And I've seen a lot of those in studios. I worked in studios and, in people's houses, private studios, and they've got their gold albums. But I'm really impressed by that. I'm also impressed, and we touched on this a little bit. We met. Well, we didn't meet. I don't think we met because I think you were on quite a tight schedule. But you did a show at the a cappella festival in Leipzig. You were in the headlining groups. It's a fantastic festival. And people who've watched this little series, which we call From a Distance, and we're actually quite a distance today. Yeah. Amakord, who started that festival, and it's just gone from strength to strength, bringing all these top groups from around the world, which is fantastic, but also having a competition to kind of encourage the new groups. It is quite a diverse week, amazing week of music making. But I saw you guys in an outdoor venue, and I'm not sure what it's called, but it's a big outdoor plaza, outdoor stage. And it was a fantastic concert, by the way. And,
thank you.
You know, beautiful. I mean, it always amazes me at how groups these days, or certainly in modern times, embrace technology, especially mics, you know, the mic groups. I was talking with Voces 8 a week or so ago about how for groups like King Singers, Voces 8, it's a nightmare with microphones because you only use them when you have to, with orchestras, and because you're not using them and you don't have your own sound guy, the whole experience can be rather a nightmare. Yeah. And although needs must, and if Boston Pops says come and do a concert with us, with, you know, doing the Beatles, you turn up and you hold their microphones and you do your best. But we know now that with ear monitors and you know, the seventh person in the group is your sound guy, who is probably the seventh and the eighth person of the group, you know, doing who makes the sound. But it was a fantastic concert. But I do remember pulling up to this concert, and it's normally in the summer, early summer. I think it was in May or June, and usually quite nice weather by May or June in Leipzig. But it was one of those rainy days where the heavens open, and I got out of the car and they gave me this kind of pack of plastic, and I said, "What's this?" He said, "It's a poncho." So I kind of did it, and it kind of opened up, and I put this thing on, and it was kind of a see-through blue plastic, and it kind of went down just below my knees. Perfect. And I walked along, and it had a kind of a hood like this, kind of Little Red Riding Hood, and I sat through this concert with it raining, which was kind of, I could see my clothes because it was transparent.
But you were not getting wet.
Dry. And I watched your concert, which was wonderful. And the sound was good. And I just thought, isn't that great that even in those times, music, you know, it can reach you. You can sit in the rain. Yeah.
And you were not miserable. That's great.
Wasn't miserable. I was really happy about that. I've always been amazed that in those festivals that groups fly in and they fly out. They don't stick around very long. Usually people have got, you know, busy schedules. There's not time to sit around and absorb the atmosphere. Groups are busy. People have got commitments, families, and people have touring schedules. Then they go and rest. And I know that when we see a group on stage, like I did when I was sat there in my little raincoat, that a lot goes into that show. You know, you might fly in that morning, you might even be flying out later that evening or the next morning. We just get a glimpse of kind of perfection happening. But actually it's a lot of effort just for that, you know, 4-set concert or whatever it is, 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, and I actually remember that maybe it was the earlier Amarcord Festival when I was in the jury with you. We were in the jury.
We did a jury because Simon Carrington.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you remembered that. Simon Carrington was double booked himself. He was off in Japan.
Oh, good for me.
I had a few years before that. They'd started this thing that they gave the finalists of the competition. They gave them a day's workshop, and I started it. So for those, I think I'd done it for 2 years, and then we sat on the jury together.
Yeah, that was really nice.
But then Simon Carrington came back. I think David Hurley went to do it. I've just been going back doing that workshop day, which is quite, it sounds quite an easy thing to do, telling groups how they might change and think about something different. But actually, I think there were quite a lot of groups. I think there were 8 groups at the last count I had to kind of deal with in one day. I was tired by then. Yes, jury work. That's interesting stuff, isn't it?
It's very interesting. And then also when the groups are really good, then it goes into like you have to kind of sense what's important for them. Like what is it that would be the best thing to to kind of reflect on, or what would be it's demanding. And then also when the groups are not very good, when there is like a lot of basic stuff that needs to be done first, and then
Am I right in remembering that it was that year when there was a very young quartet or quintet from Bulgaria, very young, sort of, I think they're very young, 12 or 13.
Oh,
but
wow.
There was a little bit of controversy because at the back there was conducting them. It was a little bit. Does that ring a bell? Oh, don't worry.
It doesn't really, but that sounds. That sounds.
Yeah, they were
interesting.
very, very. I think it was the youngest group they've ever had in that competition.
Right.
We're going to be featuring another of your videos, and I just wanted to ask a little bit. It says Soila's song.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah.
About the piece.
About the piece. So Soila took this poem. It's like newer poem. It's not old Finnish.
And it's Soila's song.
It's Soila's song. She wrote the song.
And it's called Soila's song.
It's called Talven tyttö ajaa Suomen läpi. Sorry about
what's
that.
What's a rough translation of that?
The winter girl drives through Finland.
Yeah. Yeah.
That the winter is actually a girl,
right?
Not a guy or a boy. Yeah. It's a girl, and then it comes from the north and goes down Finland and brings winter.
Yeah.
And sees everybody has to get ready for the winter, because first comes the wind and then the cold and then the snow, and she drives and she sees all the kind of happy winter in villages and cities and girls and boys and dogs, and she sees the whole thing.
Positive thing that things that are happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's and she wanted to include the sound of the sleigh.
Yeah.
That she's in a sleigh.
Okay. And that's lovely. Tell us about this performance. It's in Finlandia Hall?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's in Finlandia Hall, and that's from our 20th anniversary and concert. And and we were really happy about the new song. That would be also good for Christmas.
Yeah. And this is a live concert for your 20th anniversary. I mean, what is amazing is the quality. You know, we all know that live and recording can be two different experiences in listening, and I always think it really shows you the integrity of a group where it feels like we're listening to a CD. In fact, live is better. I mean, let's face it, live is better, and CDs can be very cold, but it is so. The timing is so beautiful, the intonation is so perfect, and there's some percussion played as well, isn't there, Joanne?
Yeah. The guys were happy that they were they were playing bottles. She wanted some like anti-instruments.
Yeah.
But the sound of the kind of clinging and the ice and the cold and freezing was her.
And I'm always
intention.
amazed when people can actually do things other than singing at the same time. I remember in the King Singers when some people couldn't even clap on the offbeats.
Oh yeah.
So they just smiled. So that is fantastic.
Thank you. I now I just realized that it might be that this was not the 20th anniversary concert, but that this was from our Christmas concert that year.
Okay.
It might
I saw live people there.
Yeah, there. It is.
Fantastic.
It is. Yeah.
Tell us, just before we kind of draw to a close, and thanks for spending the time this morning.
Thank you.
It's great. Tell us a little bit about what the last year lockdown and the coronavirus has meant for life in Finland, music in Finland, for Rajaton. It's had from a European, from an English perspective, it's been pretty disastrous, for live music. How have you guys managed?
Yeah. Well, thank you for asking. It's been pretty. I don't even know what to say. We haven't had much happening, and we've been trying to come up with things that we could put to the internet to kind of stay
relevant.
Yes, and alive for ourselves too.
Yeah.
That we have something that we do together. And then one wonderful thing that happened last fall was a very brilliant idea from Canada. They have a thing called choral. Bridge choral collection. Choral bridge collection, but it's choirs along Canada, and it's online, and they have put their strength together and invited people to give workshops, and all the choirs get the same workshop, and then there is possibility to go into breakout rooms, and so we'd send a song ahead of time. They bought the scores, and then they practiced it, and then we could go into breakout rooms and have like part practice with our I had my sopranos, and I was working with the text, and it was really, really great. And I hope that could happen like elsewhere too, because it really worked well, and we were so excited about that. We are 6 people, so we gathered. Everybody had been mostly at home, and nobody was sick. Everybody were healthy, so we gathered. But in the situation is really, really challenging, and it's also frustrating because people can go to bars, and people can, if they follow the safety distance, they are actually out there, but they can't go to concerts because the law is like that. And it's such and theaters are closed and everything, so our work is now really quite impossible. But then we are planning.
It will change, though.
Yes,
it will change.
Yes.
It's going to change.
Yes, and it's actually true that I know that both Soila and Aili are composing. They have already composed things that are not quite ready. Maybe the arrangements are not ready, but we have new things coming, and we are pretty stubborn in the thing that we are going to make this. We're gonna go through this together. But we gathered quite a bit online in the fall, and we were preparing lots of things that were almost all cancelled. So after Christmas, I felt really like I don't know what to do. But then now it's February, the sun is out, it's gonna be better, and but we've been struggling like all the same.
Well,
thing.
I wish you all the best in the months ahead and coming out of this enforced artistic, or certainly performing hibernation. It's I'm sure we will come out stronger in a way. I'm sure that all those performers who have been singing to Zoom or whatever, they're singing with each other and trying to make albums, recording in their living rooms, just parts. I think music will live through, and thanks so much for spending time, and thank you, founder members sticking together, because the Rajaton sound is unique. It's an amazing. It makes my heart beat fast when I hear your music. It's so alive. Your arrangements, the compositions, are so wonderfully, intricately woven. And yes, Mia Makarov, Jussi, and others in the group who are arranging and writing, it's part of your personality as a group, and that's wonderful. And thank you really for all you've given. I'm looking forward to celebrating your 25th.
Yeah, coming strong.
And here's to the next jury we might sit on.
Exactly.
That'll be great.
Yeah,
all right.
Exactly. Thank you for having me here.
Oh, thank you.
And all the best to you too.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm in the late autumn of my life, and I get to just speak about it now, which is quite nice. But all the best to you, and thanks ever so much.
Thank you.